I think competition makes us stronger. I think right now in the Democratic Party, one of our biggest problems is that, frankly, in many senses, outside of ideology, in terms of our strategy of winning, I think what happens more often than not is we empower people whose main strategy, and this is not to say, to call it any one person specifically, this is a cultural problem we have in the party. I think our #1 philosophy as a default when it comes to how do we win is what raises us the most money and pisses off the fewest people in the entrenched political establishment. And the very same cast of characters that brought our party to this place, I don't care if they're in a super competitive seat or in a very deeply blue seat, the same cast of characters that got us here are not who is going to get us out of here ultimately, right? Because those people, and I've seen this in the work that we've done with Leaders We Deserve at multiple levels of government. We've had candidates before where we were prepared to spend over $500,000 on a candidate in a pretty red state that was in a seat that was critical to break a supermajority. And I got a call from the Democratic minority leader of that state legislature, and they said, well, we hear that your candidates, they don't take corporate money. Are you going to fund that candidate's campaign next election cycle? Effectively turning down, saying effectively that they wanted to turn down $500,000+ so that they would take, a couple, at best 100,000 from special interests in the state. And what that told me is that as a party, many of our leaders are more interested in keeping the power structures the same that got them there than actually challenging the status quo that could be overall collectively way more beneficial to all of us, but may potentially threaten their own position of power. There's lots of young people who suck. There's lots of old people who are great. It would be, my job would be a hell of a lot easier if you just got above a certain age, you started being terrible. But that's not the case, right? We have amazing older progressive leaders that are in Congress that we need there. I think what we're talking about is the fact that age obviously does play a role in compounding ineffectiveness a lot of the time, in compounding incompetence, and people who, frankly, sound like they just want to roll over and die and not actually fight against what's happening right now, right? It feels like there's a lot of people in Congress who will say the right things, who have the right talking points, but don't have the energy to actually meet this moment. And sometimes, I think Maxwell Frost actually highlighted this very well when he said, there's a lot of older people with young ideas, and there's a lot of younger people with old ideas. What we're looking for are younger people who are progressive leaders that are really ready to meet the moment and not be folders against what's happening, but be real fighters.
What's one thing you're hopeful for?
The fact that I'm going to outlive a lot of the people who are against me.
Okay.
I mean, it's just the truth. And the other thing is, honestly, I feel like a little bit DC right now with the number of older people that have just clung on to power for so long. It's not nearly as dramatic as this, but it feels a little bit like the end of the Soviet Union, where they are just there and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's going to be a massive power vacuum. Gen X has been waiting a long time. Millennials have been waiting a long time. The difference with Gen Z, I would say in some senses, and this is a broad kind of generalization, is we're mad as hell and we are not taking it anymore. And some of you older people will get that reference in the audience. But we're going to challenge the status quo, even if it is a tough fight, and Leaders We Deserve is here to support those candidates. And we understand that, obviously, the Democratic Party, we are a big tent, and we want to do everything to get Democrats into the majority, but we also want to make sure that we're not sacrificing how our base genuinely feels and who they want to see representing them to make sure that they're properly represented, as well as making sure that we are able to still be competitive in more moderate or red districts at the end of the day, because the truth of the matter is there's a lot of the cards are stacked against us.